Coming up, poet and founder of NDN Girls Book Club, Kinsale Drake, joins us in our studio for an exclusive reading. We have the reaction from Indigenous creatives affected by the writer's strike, and we're previewing a Canadian import designed to help heal boarding school wounds. We have those interviews plus headlines ahead on the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
The ICT Newscast is sponsored by the Indian Land Tenure Foundation, a nonprofit organization serving American Indian nations and people in the recovery and control of their rightful homelands. On the web at iltf.org.
Support for the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez comes from the Arizona PBS studios in Phoenix at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications at Arizona State University.
Hopa. Thank you for joining us. I am Aaliyah Chavez. We start today north of the Medicine Line in Canada, where an Indigenous homeland has been added to the list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Klondike is located in the subarctic region of northwest Canada. According to the UNESCO World Heritage Convention, it was added because of the Klondike Gold Rush, which happened at the end of the 19th century. More specifically, because of the impact of this colonization on Indigenous people. The site is made up of 8 different locations. The Klondike-Huichin First Nations homelands are located within the new designation area, and officials say it will not impact treaty rights or mining. Klondike is joined by several other Indigenous sites on this year's UNESCO list, including the Hopewell Earthworks in Ohio and the Olmec sites in Guatemala. Staying in Canada, 2 people were arrested during a protest where Mi'kmaq lobster harvesting is underway. APTN's Angel Moore has the latest.
About 30 non-Indigenous people gathered in protest against the Mi'kmaq fishery. On a video posted to Facebook, this user said, "These are your Mi'kmaq people, the keepers of the land, which I call the rapers of the sea, because that is what it is when you're raping a bay that's not supposed to be fished in because it's closed. What else is there?" RCMP said in a statement in 2 separate incidents, 2 men were arrested for assault. There were no injuries and no charges are expected to be laid. About 40 Mi'kmaq fishers spent the night at the wharf to protect their boats, including Robert Sack of the Sabaganagati First Nation.
They're coming here and they're driving through the parking lot and spinning their tires and staring us down, and there's no need for it.
The Mi'kmaq fishers of the Sabaganagati Nation are harvesting lobster under their community's food, social, and ceremonial fishery management plan. Robert Sack and his family are not deterred, with the support of their chief, Michelle Glasgow.
I'm very grateful that she did come out with us, because we do need community support. Michelle did come down, along with a couple other counselors came down, and they're showing support, and I'm glad she got to come out and see firsthand for herself what we're actually catching.
Last week, 2 Conservative MPs representing the area, Chris D'Entremont and Rick Parsons, in a letter to the Minister of Fisheries, called the Mi'kmaq poachers hauling hundreds of thousands of pounds of lobster per day. Shannon Sack of the Sabaganagati Nation says that is impossible, with 12 Mi'kmaq boats fishing 25 traps.
Each boat would have to bring in 200 crates of lobster, and nowhere have I ever heard, even during a commercial season, that a boat has brought in 200 crates of lobster in one day.
Robert Sack says the letter is criminalizing treaty rights.
He's inciting hate, and he's going to get people riled up. He said that tensions are rising and we're in illegal fisheries and all this stuff like that, and we've been through Supreme Court so many times, it's not illegal.
The Mi'kmaq have a treaty right to harvest to earn a moderate livelihood, upheld by the Supreme Court of Canada.
We're guaranteed access to everything in Nova Scotia, whether it's hunting or fishing or trapping or making baskets, anything. Our treaty says anything. And to call a native person a poacher is really, really insulting.
But commercial fishers say the fishery is illegal and the stocks are at risk. Riley Howe says he is protecting future generations.
Most importantly, just down here exercising our treaty rights, so maybe my kids or grandchildren will someday be down here doing the same thing I am. Maybe they'll have it a little bit better, but...
Sack says politicians need to work with the Mi'kmaq and is hopeful.
So we're staying vigilant, and we're here, and we're going to keep doing our thing. We're not going to stop because someone writes a letter or someone gets online and others threats or whatever. We're still going to be here.
Police continue to remain at Saulnieville Wharf to ensure public safety. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Saulnieville.
In the American South, college students are helping preserve the environment through gardening. The American Indian Center at the University of North Carolina is starting a unique cultural garden on its campus. The garden will grow tobacco, cedar, sweetgrass, and sage, among other traditional plants. It will also grow a Piedmont prairie with native grasses and wildflowers. Marissa Carmi, the Associate Director of the American Indian Center, says the garden is a symbol of how Native people view the world, which is part of an ecosystem. Gardening is just one way for Indigenous people to connect with the landscape when so many lands are commercially developed. Ryan Emanua, who is a Lumbee, said gardening helps focus on a landscape under threat because of climate change. Pollution, climate change, and unsustainable development are viewed as North Carolina's three biggest threats to the future. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. A Hollywood writer strike of nearly 5 months ended Wednesday when the Writers Guild of America reached a deal with the studios, streaming services, and production companies that hire them. ICT's Joaqlin Estus reached out to Vera Starbard shortly after a tentative deal was reached. Before the strike, she was a writer on the ABC series Alaska Daily.
Cautious optimism, but maybe overly cautious optimism, because I think it's been 5 months now with very little light at the end of the tunnel, and now it seems like this might work. I feel like I'm going to jinx it if I get too excited, though. We got a pretty positive letter telling us that the terms are really good, and the negotiating committee has been pretty frank about when it's been bad and they didn't think we had good terms. So I think we're going to get those after the Yom Kippur holiday, and then we get to dig in and really see what they agreed on. I'm working on a lot of theater projects. I'm revising and workshopping an opera right now, actually, at Tlingit Opera, and have some commissions for the stage, some non-union kind of work, and then just little contracts here and there. You kind of pick up what you can. In 5 months, it does start to make you a little nervous that you're ever going to go back to sort of the full-time work we had before. So I was getting a little bit worried, staying busy, but not quite busy enough. In television, you're always preparing for free, which is part of what the strike is about. You do an awful lot of free work before you ever get paid. So if they don't have a contract with a studio, they can try and create a TV show, work on scripts that don't have a home yet, that kind of a thing. So I know some of them are doing that. Some states don't have unemployment when you're on strike, and those ones are sort of finding jobs where they can. I know a couple who've had kind of gig work like Uber driving and that kind of a thing, just whatever they can to sort of get by. At the same time, writers are sort of used to going long stretches without work. That's also part of what the strike is about, is you can go months and months, if not years, without paying jobs while you're doing sort of all this free work to try and get the job. So an awful lot of them were like, it's the same as usual. Like this feels unfortunately very common and getting more common, which is why we were striking. two of the bigger things were the streaming residuals and rights. That's been a huge sticking point because the studios sort of wanted to keep kicking the can down the road. Sort of when we first had an opportunity to make those deals at the beginning of streaming, they kind of kept kicking it and kicking it. And it's way past time to address that in a fair way. Writers, and for that matter, anyone working that's not an executive, does not get paid fairly at all for streaming channels, which is what most people actually watch the most of now, is streaming. The other sticking point was AI. I'm going to be honest, I don't understand a lot of it. And I think that was sort of the point, is that we're at sort of the beginning of this new AI world. And we've had these things before when VHS just started and home video became a thing, and we didn't get very fair contracts for that and made that mistake. Streaming kind of made mistakes on that and didn't get fair contracts for that. So I think with this one, the union and the writers knew, like, we can't keep looking at new technology and saying we'll make a deal later, because then it's almost too late. We've made the deal, we have the poor deal. We don't have very fair wages or working conditions or that kind of a thing with these new technologies. So they're looking at AI now and going, no, we need to address this now before it takes over everything in 3 years, like it inevitably will.
The Screen Actors Guild remains on strike, with negotiations continuing over pay, including how performers will get paid when a movie or television show is streamed online, as well as the use of artificial intelligence. This next movement started a decade ago to commemorate the experiences of students at a single Canadian residential school. It's now every September 30th, a federal holiday in Canada focused on healing the legacy of that entire era. It's also now taking root in the United States. ICT's Stewart Huntington has more on what started as and will always be known as Orange Shirt Day.
September 30th marks the third annual National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in Canada. It highlights the history and impacts of Canada's residential school system that took Native students from their families and stripped them of their lifeways. The day, marked by marches and gatherings, is also taking root in the United States.
The importance is to really shed a light on what happened in this country, because it's just not known in the general public. It's not taught about, it's just not talked about. People don't know. So taking this day to really spread awareness is important. And it also allows our community to come together and support each other as we continue to learn more about what happened in Indian boarding schools and just bring about more truth and awareness.
Last year marked a major turning point in the U.S. The Interior Department released its first federal Indian boarding school initiative report. The initiative is designed to determine the scope of the long-shrouded system.
The truth is coming out more and more, especially this past year. So the more that people are learning the truth, the more it's bringing about emotions in them. And it is about the children, and bringing remembrance of the children in ways of putting little baby shoes on the steps of churches or schools or anywhere, really, just to bring that awareness.
But much remains hidden. Since last year's report, the National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition has identified more than 100 more Indian boarding schools, and the trauma from the schools is difficult to measure.
You can almost tie all of our disparities or everything that we're going through as Native people back to Indian boarding schools, from low education rates, suicide rates, high poverty rates, high health disparity rates. Everything can be tied back to boarding school. It goes deeper than people can even imagine without really going into it. It's literally tied to every issue that we experience today. And we're still going through it. You can see on Native lands the trauma that is still living within people, the intergenerational trauma, the intergenerational and historical trauma that we carry within our genes.
Just ask Tiana Bill. She went to Carlisle, Pennsylvania, the site of the country's first federal boarding school. She went to bring home the remains of her Puyallup ancestor, Edward Spot, who died at the school in 1896. But the remains in the grave were not Edward's. No one knows if they will ever be located.
Don't think that just because, we're living in the 2020s that this trauma is something of the past. Because if we don't take care of ourselves right now, and if we don't address it, then it will never be done. It will follow us into our future.
Which is what Orange Shirt Day hopes to prevent.
If we start by knowing the truth, then we can start the healing process to get through this trauma and everything that was put in place to be against us as Native people.
Reporting from Carbondale, Colorado, Stewart Huntington, ICT News.
I'll introduce you here, and it'll be a single shot of me, and then I'll... Award-winning poet Kinsale Drake has spread her love of writing and literature throughout the organization, the Indian Girls Book Club, which was featured in Teen Vogue earlier this year. I'm joined now in our studio with Kinsale, and we'll get the opportunity to dive into the work that she does. But first, she'll perform a poem titled "Put That on KTNN." Kinsale, it's all yours. Take it away.
Put on that KTNN. My mother was raised on Patsy Cline and Hank Williams country that bounced in on her father's radio. Even today, I know I am nearing home when the pop music crackles into KTNN, licks of fluent Navajo flitting between Loretta Lynn and Johnny Cash. They are interludes, too, for drum beats and throaty covers of well-loved tunes put on by some local boy's gas station banjo and hot rocket guitar. A strong woman that sings the seasons over a hand drum. Then it is back to more Loretta Lynn. All contradictions find a home in the body. The insect skin of the car sluicing the Arizona desert as the cicadas pick up their grand instruments. How else to know you enter a land of monuments, not a wasteland, loved by radio waves and peach trees and small, silly dogs that bridge the distance between a chapter house and the nearest Sonics in a city. The moon rocks darken into pine, pine into slick rock, and the whole world remembers what it once was. Grand ocean, sun, plankton, pearl, blood, ancestor, cloud. Radio rainbows the most violent parts of the land, thrashed by thunderstorm and sea, as the rattles pick up their backing track and Hank Williams rolls in all over again, easy and blue.
That was so beautiful. Thank you so much. We're very excited that you're here, and welcome back to the ICT Newscast.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I want to actually dive into the poem that you just read.
Sure.
So tell us how it first started for you.
Well, my earliest memories are of music. I'm sure for many of us they are. And I grew up with the soundtrack of my family, which largely was country music from my mom's side, big urban cowboy girl. She loved the Eagles. And from my dad's side, it was a lot of Motown that he was into when he was younger. And so this backing track I had to my life had a great cultural relevance that was shared, I found, by other young Native people, especially Navajos. And so that kind of common language that we have, that musical landscape, is something that I wanted to explore in a poem where you're kind of moving through Arizona and hearing this music.
And I know that so many Navajo viewers will know KTNN, but for folks who maybe don't know what it is, tell us about it.
Yeah, it's the Navajo music radio station, and way back in the day, it was like the only radio station that would come on the res, and that's what my mom recalls listening to growing up, and that's what her dad would play in his truck, and that's what we play when we come back home.
I love that. I want to talk and say congratulations to you because you've recently been named a winner of the 2023 National Poetry Series competition.
Thank you.
How did you feel when you got that news?
Like I was gonna pass out. It was definitely overwhelming. I've admired all the winners of that series ever since Jake Skeets won, and he's also a Diné poet. And that's when I really started paying attention to the series because I knew that, Navajos could win it. And I just submitted my thesis project from university, thinking not much of it. I just thought I'd put myself out there. And I ended up winning, and I believe I'm one of the youngest winners. So of course that was a huge thing to think about, how it must be really cool for younger people to see me win and get excited about young Native poets. And of course Jake is excited, and Hyde Erdrich, who also had won a couple years back, she also was very excited.
The last time that we visited with you, you were actually here in Phoenix to launch the Indian Girls Book Club. Tell us about that initiative and organization.
So Indian Girls Book Club is a literary organization that was also part of my project in college to keep Native students in higher education. So we have some of the lowest retainment rates in the nation, and that's because a lot of times Native students are being pushed out of higher institutions of learning. I know you went to Stanford, and so you understand. But especially in the creative writing space, there's so little support for Native students unless you go to a place like IAIA. And so I was thinking of how to create programs that could sustainably support and mentor students. And so that's how Indian Girls Book Club came about. But it's really just all the things I love, like pink and glitter and making books really fun to read and bringing people together, and this love for community that I've had throughout my career as a writer. It's all kind of packaged into one thing. So we do workshops, readings, author talks, things like that for free.
And what has been the reaction from people who participate?
Oh, it's been lovely. It's been very much a healing journey, I think, for my inner child, and also I think a lot of people's inner children. I think I've gotten a lot of messages from older Native women in particular, and they just will say, I wish I had this when I was a little girl. And it just feels good knowing that that little girl is still in us, and it's nourishing some part of us that wanted to read, books with people who looked like us when we were kids.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about other Indigenous poets. One that's coming to mind, I'm sure a lot of people know, is Joy Harjo.
Yes.
Maybe talk about her and if she's been an inspiration in your own life.
Joy Harjo is definitely an inspiration. I've met her a few times at this point, and for a number of reasons, she's a trailblazer, but I love how original she is. I love how she plays saxophone on stage. I love that she does her own thing and doesn't take, anything from anybody. But she's breaking ground as the first U.S. poet laureate of the United States who is Indigenous that we know of. And to see her work represented on these beautiful historic stages is just there's something so unsettling in the best way about it. Like there's a voice in there that has never been in there before in a positive light, and that you just know a lot of change is coming.
I know that you interact with a lot of young children, especially like in grade school, elementary school, middle school. Do you ever have to convince them to like poetry, or what are those conversations like with the young people?
Sometimes they're a little doubtful, but I understand. I didn't like poetry at one point, but I usually have a nice entrance, which is music. And Tupac, I'll talk to them and say, Tupac was a poet before he was a rapper. You guys know him? And they'll be like, yeah! So sometimes that'll get their attention, but poetry is all around us, and I think it influences us in pop culture much more than we think it does.
Absolutely. I want to know what you're listening to right now or what you're reading right now in terms of poetry.
Yeah, so poetry, I listen to The Slowdown with Major Jackson. I was just a guest on that show, and it's a poetry podcast that pairs music and important conversations recently about environmentalism with some poems by poets across the country. I've been reading some spooky season books, which are great reads right now. So there's the new anthology, Never Whistle at Night, which is an Indigenous dark fiction anthology that's edited by Shane Hawk, and I've been loving the cover art for that. The other one is Louise Erdrich's book, The Roundhouse, which is a scary read, but very necessary to understanding the violences that impact Native women contemporarily. And then finally, My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. It's a slasher novel with a native emo protagonist, and it really doesn't get any better than that. So I'm not going to spoil too much of that one, but that's a favorite of mine.
You've had such a bright career so far, so I have to ask you, what's next for you?
I have my first book coming out. That's kind of what I'm focused on. It's just a dream come true, and I'm so excited that, I get to share these poems and meet with young Native writers and be able to mentor them, and I hopefully will get to teach eventually. I'm still going to be going to grad school in the next 2 years or so, and hopefully be a mentor for Native students in the future.
I know that a lot of our viewers will want to, stay connected with you, so tell us very quickly where people can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Kinsale Hughes on Instagram, and you can also find Indian Girls Book Club there, so that's just the same as the name, at Indian Girls Book Club.
Well, I've loved this conversation. That poem was so beautiful. Yet again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.